The character that would become Kermit the Frog was built from an old green coat and two halves of a ping-pong ball. One Muppet performer went completely silent for 6 years after Jim Henson died, and The Muppet Show was rejected by every single American network before it ever made it on air. 47 facts about the Muppets that will actually change the way you see these characters. Let's go. 1. The character that would become Kermit the Frog was built in 1955 from Jim Henson's mother's old green coat. The eyes were two halves of a ping-pong ball. Henson was 18 years old and working out of his parents' house. 2. Kermit was not originally a frog. In his first appearances, he was an abstract lizard-like creature with no fixed species. He did not officially become a frog until 1969, when Sesame Street needed him to fit into a more realistic, recognizable world. 3. Henson's first television show, Sam and Friends, ran from 1955 to 1961 in Washington, D.C. It aired twice a day, 6 days a week, and Henson performed live every single broadcast. He was still in college for most of that run. 4. The name Muppet has no confirmed origin. Henson gave different answers in different interviews, sometimes saying it was a blend of marionette and puppet, sometimes admitting he made it up because it simply sounded right. 5. Waldorf and Statler, the two hecklers in the balcony, are named after two famous New York City hotels, the Waldorf Astoria and the Statler Hilton. Henson thought old men who never left their seats should be named after places you check into and never leave. 6. Throughout the 1960s, Henson spent years trying to convince American networks to give him an adult variety show. CBS, NBC, and ABC all said no. 7. The show that finally got made was not made in America. Lou Grade, a British media mogul running ATV in London, said yes when nobody in the United States would. The Muppet Show was produced in England for its entire original run. 8. At its peak, The Muppet Show reached an estimated audience of 235 million people across more than 100 countries. Every American network that had passed on it got to watch that number grow from the outside. 9. Miss Piggy was not originally meant to be a main character. She was a background performer in early episodes with no fixed personality. She pushed her way to the front one karate chop at a time, and audiences simply could not look away. 10. The Muppet Show's theme song was written by Jim Henson and Sam Pottle. The full arrangement, including the famous "It's Time to Play the Music" opening, was locked in almost immediately. 12 seconds that every Muppet fan can sing from memory, done in a single session. If 10 facts and you're already rethinking everything you knew about this show, subscribe right now. We're only getting started, and the next chapter is where it gets properly weird. 11. Most Muppet performers work with their arms raised above their heads for the entire shoot. A standard day could run 10 to 12 hours. Performers developed specific physical conditioning routines just to get through production without their shoulders giving out. 12. The performers never looked directly at the puppets or at each other while shooting. They watched hidden floor monitors underneath the set. Every expression, eyeline, and reaction was calibrated through a small screen at their feet. 13. The explosions on The Muppet Show were real. Professional pyrotechnicians came in for nearly every episode. Flash powder and flash paper detonated on a live set, surrounded by flammable foam puppets and actual human performers crouched out of frame. 14. Full-body characters like Sweetums required a performer completely sealed inside the suit who could not see anything at all. They navigated by feel, by sound, and by instructions fed through a small earpiece. 15. Gonzo's nose required an internal wire structure to hold its shape under the heat of studio lighting. The foam softened and sagged under the lights, so the nose had to be rebuilt multiple times during a single shoot. 16. The Swedish Chef speaks no real language. His dialogue is a phonetic approximation of how Swedish sounds to a non-Swedish ear. It was created by Jim Henson, who spoke no Swedish himself and had never been to Sweden. 17. The Muppet Show had a live studio audience for every single episode. That audience could see the performers below the set. arms in the air, staring at monitors, an open secret that nobody involved publicly discussed for years. 18. Kermit riding a bicycle in the Muppet movie required hidden wires, a specially built bike frame, and a precisely calculated camera angle that hid the rig. It took 2 full days to film a shot that lasts around 30 seconds on screen. 19. The entire production team worked out of Elstree Studios in England for all 5 seasons. Most of the core American performers relocated to Britain for the full run, living abroad for years to make a show broadcast back home. 20. Crazy Harry first appeared in a 1974 Valentine's Day special under the name Crazy Donald. He was renamed before The Muppet Show officially launched in 1976, one name change away from a completely different character history. 21. Frank Oz performed Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Animal, Sam the Eagle, Bert from Sesame Street, and Yoda in the original Star Wars trilogy. One man performed 6 of the most recognizable characters in television. 22. Dave Goelz has performed Gonzo continuously since 1973, more than 50 years with the same character. He is the longest-serving active Muppet performer still working with the role he originated. 23. Richard Hunt simultaneously performed Scooter, Statler, Janice, and Sweetums during the original run of The Muppet Show. 4 completely distinct voices, personalities, and physicalities often in the same scene. 24. Jerry Nelson performed Robin the Frog, Floyd Pepper, Crazy Harry, and the Count from Sesame Street. He once described performing multiple characters in the same scene as a specific kind of controlled schizophrenia that he had to practice for years to maintain. 25. Carol Spinney performed Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch for 50 years, from 1969 all the way to 2018. He continued performing Big Bird until he was 84 years old inside a full-body suit that required him to hold one arm above his head for the entire performance. 26. In the 1950s, before The Muppet Show existed, Henson produced a long series of coffee commercials in which one puppet would regularly shoot, bomb, or blow up another puppet for not drinking the right brand. They ran on American television for years and were considered completely acceptable family programming. 27. The Muppets appeared on Saturday Night Live during its very first season in 1975. The SNL writing staff openly refused to write material for them. Writer Michael O'Donoghue's now famous response was, "I don't write for felt." The Muppets were gone by season 2. 28. Animal was originally designed as a background character with no real speaking role. The performers kept pushing him further into scenes because audiences responded to him immediately, and by the second season, he was one of the show's central faces. 29. Miss Piggy's first ever television appearance was not on The Muppet Show. She appeared in a 1974 Herb Alpert television special, long before the ensemble we know today was built around her. 30. Frank Oz has said that after decades of performing the same characters, the line between performer and character becomes genuinely blurry, that the characters develop instincts that surprise even the people performing them. He has described Miss Piggy in particular as someone who started making her own decisions. 31. The Muppet Show ended in 1981 not because of low ratings. It was still one of the most watched shows on television worldwide. Jim Henson chose to end it. He simply wanted to move on to whatever came next, while the show was still at its peak. 32. Jim Henson died on May 16, 1990, at the age of 53. The cause was organ failure from a streptococcal infection. He had ignored worsening symptoms for several days and died less than 24 hours after finally arriving at the hospital. 33. Rolf the dog did not speak in any major Muppet production for 6 years after Henson's death. His first spoken appearance after that came on Muppets Tonight in 1996. The performers simply were not ready to give him a new voice before then. 34. Several original Muppet Show episodes are nearly impossible to stream legally today because of music licensing issues. Songs cleared for 1970s television broadcasts need entirely new licenses for digital distribution. Parts of Muppet history are effectively locked away from modern audiences. 35. Muppets from Space, released in 1999, is the only Muppet theatrical film to lose money. Budget, roughly $24 million. Worldwide gross, $22.3 million. No new Muppet theatrical film would follow for more than a decade after it. 36. The 1999 flop triggered a period where Disney and the Henson Company flat out did not know what to do with the franchise. For years, new Muppet projects were quietly developed and then just as quietly abandoned. 37. Pepe the King Prawn, introduced in 1996, was specifically designed to be the Muppets' answer to a more adult, more marketable character. Many longtime fans saw him as the first visible sign that the franchise was being rebuilt around marketing instincts rather than comedic ones. 38. Bean Bunny, introduced in 1986, was engineered from the start to be cute. Hardcore fans rejected him almost immediately. He became a case study internally at the Henson Company in what happens when a character is designed to sell merchandise first and perform second. 39. Disney officially acquired the Muppets in 2004 for approximately $75 million. A much larger deal had been in negotiation before Henson's death in 1990, and that earlier number was reportedly around twice as high. The Muppets eventually changed hands for roughly half of what they had almost been worth 14 years earlier, 40. The Muppets, released in 2011, became the highest-grossing Muppet film since the original Muppet movie in 1979. Budget of $45 million and worldwide gross over $165 million. The franchise's first real commercial comeback in decades. 41. The 2011 film was written by actor Jason Segel, who had spent years pitching it to Disney as a devoted, lifelong fan. He refused to modernize or reinvent the characters. He just wanted them to be exactly who they had always been. 42. Rainbow Connection, written for the 1979 Muppet movie, was nominated for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards. It lost. A Frog in a Swamp Singing About Dreams, nominated for an Oscar, lost. And somehow that makes it even better. 43. Paul Williams, who co-wrote Rainbow Connection, became so tied to the Muppets that Kermit officially declared him an honorary Muppet in 1976. Williams has said the Muppet set was the first place in his entire career where he felt completely at home. 44. The Muppet Show is now considered one of the first truly global television formats. Produced in Britain, starring American characters, broadcast across more than 100 countries simultaneously, decades before the internet made any of that routine. 45. In early 2026, The Muppets Came Back, a new special on Disney Plus and ABC, produced by Seth Rogen, featuring Sabrina Carpenter. The franchise's first serious attempt to introduce the Muppets to a Generation Z audience that had mostly grown up without them. 46. Kermit has now been voiced by only 3 performers across 70 years of television and film: Jim Henson, Steve Whitmire, and Matt Vogel. 3 people, 1 frog, 70 years, 47. Jim Henson once said, and this is a direct quote from his own memorial instructions, "My hope still is to leave the world a little bit better than when I got here." The Muppets have been making people laugh, argue, and feel something for more than 70 years. By most measures, that one landed. 47 facts, 70 years of television history, and somehow, a frog, built from an old green coat, is still one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. So tell us in the comments, which of these 47 actually made you rethink the Muppets? The Swedish Chef phonetics? The coffee commercial violence? The SNL writers who flat out refused to write for felt? Drop the number of the facts that broke your brain. And if you want more videos that treat the Muppets like the serious piece of television history they actually are, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.